Part of the reason that Lady Vol coach Kim Caldwell was hired because she likes to go up and down at a fast pace. And we talked about earlier, that's something that Danny White wanted to be able to market in all sports, and he's been able to do that. I, to some extent, think that he liked the 2022 baseball team as well. I mean, he probably didn't like the bird going around second base, but he liked that. So Kim Caldwell has that style. How good should the Lady Vols be in year one? Because we used to always say 4 or 5 years, but that really with NIL and transfer portal, that doesn't hold anymore.
No, it doesn't. But you're right. Kim Caldwell has that style, and Dave, she's got flair. Tony Vitello flair. There is a TikTok backdrop where Lady Vols on a visit earlier this week showed up and took some TikToks with Lady Vol colored Lamborghinis behind them inside Thompson Bowling Arena. Not even kidding.
That worked well for the Georgia Bulldogs, but
I mean, I know, old school local Dave,
and that money's not there. Just for the record.
Okay.
I mean, nobody's actually. There are not any Lady Vols getting Lamborghinis. I'm sorry, advertisers don't see the return on that. So I guess that was neat. But
what do you think, though? Let me just pull up the picture real quick. We're gonna pull a few pictures up, but this is check out this TikTok. I think it's pretty dope. It's not showing, is it?
No, I see it.
Oh, you see it? Look at that.
It's huge. Yeah, they got a blue one and an orange one. And are you sure those are Lamborghinis?
Reportedly Lambos.
Okay. All right. Could have got a better deal. Couldn't got a better deal on an S5. Trust me.
But anyways,
yeah.
I think he went for the style and the flash, but also I think, Dave, tell me if this is crazy, style and flash is even more important with women's basketball than it is with football and things like that, right?
I don't know that it is at Tennessee because they have such a loyal fan base. By the way, thanks to all those that took part in our poll question, and that was the singer Tony Bennett was a cool cat, 58%, strange dude, 41%. I'm going to replace that with who wins a championship. Now, this could be a regular season championship. This could be a national championship. It could even be an SEC tournament championship. But I'm going to ask you, who wins a championship before the other? Is it Rick Barnes or Kim Caldwell?
Okay, sorry.
So is it Rick Barnes or Kim Caldwell? Who wins a championship sooner between the two coaches?
I think Rick Barnes. And I firmly believe this, that Rick Barnes' best days are ahead of him. I do believe Danny White with that. Yeah. Do we want to broach the topic of? You're right. I mean, it's, do we want to broach the topic of Kim Caldwell coaching her first season pregnant?
Yeah, I mean, I want to dive into that. That didn't sound right.
And by the way, we're talking about this because the Lady Vols had their SEC media days this week too, and
yes,
so that's why it's relevant.
And she announced she was pregnant. I don't think it's a perfect scenario because I've been through 2 pregnancies, not personally, but my wife has. One was incredibly challenging. The other one wasn't. One, I think it affected her at her job and would definitely affect her if she was coaching a basketball team. The other, I think she would be just fine. So I don't think it's a perfect scenario, but good for her. Congratulations for her. I'm kind of surprised you're coming down on her for wanting to start a family.
I have not come down on her at all. What are you talking about? I mean, here's the thing. The baby's expected in the winter. I mean, luckily for... I know what it's like to start going back to work and grinding within a couple of weeks of having a baby, but I will say that, and I know the grind's a lot harder when you're in season with the head coach. Thankfully, the Lady Vols pay Kim Caldwell a good bit of money, so she's going to be able to enlist a good bit of help. Let's call it what it is. And so,
yeah. Like somebody told me recently that Nico needs to have somebody monitoring his social media account with the type of money he's making.
Yeah. And this is my
Tyler Summit turned out okay according to Adam.
Yeah, it turned out to be a very good guy.
Yeah. But Pat Summit carried him in what year, Caleb? And how did the Lady
1990.
Vols do?
Oh yeah, so Pat Summit carried him, and it was 1990, and that year was sandwiched between 2 national championship years, and they did not make the national title that year. They got bounced out in the Elite Eight. And also,
you're asserting that Tennessee missed out on a national championship because of Tyler Summit and the pregnancy that created him.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that's what happened. I will say that, you know, Pat Summit having a child, let's just, you know, Tyler Summit turned out to be a guy who does Bible study with players that he never mind. You know, it's
Well, I mean, you can say he reportedly impregnated a player at La Tech. I mean, that's
well, not only that, like that player, he was an assistant at Marquette, and that player was at Marquette, and he held a scholarship for that player at La Tech, and it started that player and gave her preferential treatment, which no one thought was okay. Yeah, and then got her pregnant, and then left his wife for her. They are married now, and they have their own family. He had to step down for that. And he goes on like interviews and was like, you know, we do Bible study every night. We're a good Christian family. I'm like, really, bro? Really? You broke up 2 marriages, but sure. Okay. Yeah, well, your marriage. I don't know if she was married, to be fair. But yeah.
okay. Now, a couple of things that have been brought up on the message board, and I'm going to open it up. I'm going to say who wins next championship for Vols? Barnes, Heupel, Caldwell, Vitello. So you can vote on that as part of our poll question. Our poll question is brought to you in part by our friends at National Fitness Center. Unmatched value, limitless options. Begin your fitness journey today. NFC1.com. NFC1.com. So, Caleb, in all seriousness, does she get somewhat of a pass? We just talked about how coaches don't have 4 or 5 years anymore because of the transfer portal and NIL, that you can get things turned around pretty quickly. But, and I mean this dead seriously, does she deserve a bit of a pass on year 1 because she's pregnant?
I don't think there were many expectations for year 1 anyway. Kim Caldwell has to do 2 things to get this roster to what she wants it to be. She has to go for players that can shoot, and she has to go for players that are ridiculously athletic. She prioritized athleticism on this roster. There are a lot of athletes on this roster who can't hit the broadside of a barn, okay? And, I mean, they can't shoot for you-know-what. Now, it could be possible they didn't get a lot of great looks at their other schools, and maybe they'll shoot better now with all the open looks they'll get in this up-tempo offense. That's possible. I don't see that being the case. I see this being, and I'm going to just throw a name out, Kim Caldwell will be coaching the women's version of Mark Gottfried's Alabama teams back in the 2000s. And you remember those? They were wildly athletic. Chaos all over the court. But they could not shoot for you-know-what. Damari Carroll stands out the most for me as that because the Grizzlies drafted him. That's going to be this year's team. But it's going to be fun to watch. And I don't think, and this is the other part of this, Dave, it's kind of similar to the Heupel thing. You talk about play calling's overrated all the time. I don't think it's... What Kim Caldwell does lessens the importance of in-game coaching. Does that make sense? She focuses on conditioning and just controlled chaos that you're ready to handle before the game tips off. And so I don't think there's going to be, you can say this is a red flag or not, I don't think there's going to be a lot of designed offensive schemes in this offense.